Thanks so much. Thanks for coming to our talk today. Super excited to be here with Carlos, who is the architect of Moderna's new data analytics platform and the head of their data engineering team. He is much more interesting to listen to than I am, so I'm going to keep my part short here. He's going to tell you about how they're building their new analytics platform and how they're solving some really hard problems with data pipelines on AWS. But before I hand it over to him, I'd like to tell you just a little bit about what Etleap is, why we're around. In other words, why does the world need another ETL tool when there are so many ETL tools out there already? I've been in data my whole career. I was previously CTO at an ad tech company where we had data in all kinds of places. We had engineering teams that would build basically centralized computing infrastructure on AWS to centralize the data and to make it analytics ready and data science ready. That was tremendously time consuming, and our analytics teams ended up spending a lot of time waiting for their data. Our engineers ended up being very frustrated that they had to spend so much time building and maintaining these pipelines. And when we started trying out tools, they didn't actually really reduce the engineering effort because they felt like bolt-ons essentially to their existing, or AWS felt like more of a bolt-on to their existing offerings. And so basically to reduce this workload, we decided to try and solve this problem. So that's really what we're doing at Etleap, building tools to reduce the amount of effort it takes to build data pipelines on AWS. So our tool lets you build reliable and flexible pipelines with much less pain and in much less time. And with that, I'll hand it over to Carlos.
Thank you, Christian. All right. All right, so I'm going to talk to you about how we build our unified analytics platform. So my name is Carlos, and I've been a data engineer at Moderna since way before anyone had heard of it. Over the years, we have partial solutions for our analytics stack, including BI tools and ETL tools. For some time, we have wanted to build an enterprise-wide data analytics platform that will help us deliver on our analytics goals. So we're bringing new drugs and treatments to the market. So when COVID hit last year, a couple of years ago now, we realized that our vaccine will lead our company's hypergrowth. So we knew that we had to accelerate the building of our new analytics platform. At a very high level, what we expect from this analytics platform is that we need to pull data together into one place, let us clean, structure, and of course, analyze it and model it in a flexible way, and then visualize it, create data products, and use it for AI and of course, ML processes as well. As we started planning for this new platform, there were several things that were obvious. For example, that we will use AWS because the decision to use AWS as a company had already been made. It was also obvious that our platform needed BI tools that were already being used by lines of business. However, there were also some requirements that were challenging that emerged during planning. So here are some of the key challenges that we face. The first one is that we need to have a tool that can handle a lot of sources. So we have almost 100 internal data sources that each of those data sources store data in silos. So we work with partners for things like drug manufacturing that exports their data through file servers and databases. And we use applications like Salesforce and Workday that contain key operational data. In order to put all this data to use, we have to centralize it first. So using one-off tools for a given source to ingest its data into our platform was something that we've been really burned by. So we wanted a single tool that can ingest data for all the different sources. Another challenge was security. Being a life science company, there is a lot of sensitive data that we're processing, and our analytics platform has to be compliant with GxP standards. This means that we have to be careful about the vendors we pick. to make sure that they can meet constraints about auditing and change management, just to name a couple. And finally, we are an ambitious data engineering team, and we have big expectations from the company for this new analytics platform. So as data engineers, we want to spend most of our time differentiating projects that, rather than the plumbing work of building pipelines behind of how to build those pipelines, actually. So as a company, we want to grow the value we get out of our analytics platform without growing headcount in the data engineering team at the same pace. This means that we had to find a tool that was tightly integrated with AWS, and that we would not have to do a bunch of engineering on top of it in order to make it work for us. After evaluating a bunch of ETL solutions, we landed on Etleap, and we use it as our unified ETL solution for our data platform because it offered the best AWS integration and offers solutions to the challenges that we were facing. We actually met here at reInvent a couple of years ago. So this is how it works for us. So we log in on Etleap's UI. We configure connections to the sources we want to pull data from, and that includes a bunch of Postgres databases, Mongo databases, and SQL Server databases that actually power internal applications, and also some that belong to partners that whose data we needed to access. So whenever the CDC is available, the CDC stands for Change Data Capture, Etleap will pull replication logs from all these databases in order to capture updates, deletes, and inserts. And if CDC is not available, well, the tool will just run queries to get the data out of it. In addition to these, to the databases, there are also applications like Salesforce and Workday. Those are examples of use cases where Etleap didn't have those connections on their library, but they expedited the process and they were added to their library pretty fast. One of the other data sources are S3 files, and we do get partners that make the data available in large volumes of files. In order to make these files queryable, we need to do some processing, or basically the transformation. For this, we use Etleap's Data Wrangler, which let us interact with data samples in order to create transformation scripts. All right, so once we define the data that we're pulling and which transformations we're going to apply, it's time to decide where the data should flow. We use Amazon Redshift as our data warehouse, and we use Glue as our data lake catalog. Luckily, Etleap's solution works with both. We specify the schema, the table name, and then from there, Etleap automatically creates the tables, pulls the data into the sources, applies the transformation, and then loads the data into the data warehouse. When something is wrong with our pipelines, like there is a connection issue or a schema change or something like that, we just get an alert. One of the important things that I want to mention about this here is that Etleap support team does not have access to our environment, but they do get the metrics and diagnostics from it. So when they get in touch with us, if something is wrong or out of whack, so it's easy for us to troubleshoot this with them. Second, operating on this life sciences industry means that we're interfacing with a lot of legacy technology and a lot of on-prem technology. So this means that we need to connect to external systems to different ways. Usually what we used to do is SSH tunnels to establish secure connections, or VPN connections to their data centers. It was also important for us to isolate the ETL in a different VPC from the other AWS workloads that we're running. So Etleap is in a VPC that is peer to ours. Most of this network setup is out of the box with Etleap, and then when it's not, we just get on call with the support team and we troubleshoot it together. And finally, we're running Etleap in two separate VPC environments, as I said before, one for production and one for pre-production. So Etleap provides us a Terraform module that spins up the necessary AWS components, so this requires like close to zero management. Having pipelines in multiple environments is key both for security compliance and for development. For compliance, it's important to keep the stack relatively simple, with everything auditable, which help us work through the GXP qualification and validation processes with little to no hassle. So now that we have all of this platform and the results, what are the results that we are actually seeing? So for once, our data engineering team is able to add data sources and data pipelines very quickly because there is very little maintenance to worry about. We're adding multiple new data sources every week at this point. So all in all, we expect to spend minimal amounts of time working on ETL processes going forward. And then the fast setup speed is unblocking a bunch of data projects, which is like a big win for us in the company. Also, as a company that embraces the cloud, we like SaaS tools. But of course, letting our data leave our firewall was a non-starter. So we needed a solution that could run inside our cloud configuration. Etleap solution running on our own VPCs and sending diagnostics back to the support team it's actually a great model for us because it feels like SaaS and let us diagnose and resolve ETL issues fast without being experts on the low-level details on how pipelines operate. We also don't have to worry about scalability because the way Etleap is architected, so it is auto-scaling on EMR clusters, which is pretty key for us because some of our sources contain more, like many terabytes of data, and just the pipelines to bring them into our world just work. Because Etleap is an AWS-native solution, we found that we have to do very little engineering around the platform itself. So for example, we used to have to run SSH tunneling and jump boxes when connecting to external systems, but Etleap has all of that built into it. This means less infrastructure to maintain, which again means that we don't need to hire more data engineers for ETL purposes only. This let us keep our ETL team lean, which is an important thing for us. One of the other benefits is that unifies ingestion. In the beginning, we used to script our own stuff, our own ETL processes, so having this unified actually helped us to be backed and supported by the same team, and everything flows through the same path, so it's very reliable for us. So what's the future of the things that we're doing? So we're still working on actually implementing our lakehouse and the entire architecture for maximal performance and usability for data producers and consumers, not only internally in the company, but the external projects that we handle as well. One of the other things that we're working on is on Redshift data sharing, so that we can separate ETL and BI workloads, and then have those isolated clusters for different divisions across the company, while actually avoiding siloing data. We're actually hiring a data lake architecture, and so if you guys are interested, let us know. And finally, one of the big things for our team is that our data engineering process, we're thinking to let different teams within the company manage their own pipelines on this platform. So that means that the goal for us is self-service, which will increase autonomy for those teams and reduce the workload for us. By training them on how to define transformations with the data wrangler and manage pipelines with the help of Etleap support, we're going to be able to scale to more data pipelines faster and not become a bottleneck for data growth across the company. So I think that's all I have for our pipeline. I hand it back to Christian.
Nice. Thanks, Carlos. That was great. 3 more things to tell you. This is my only slide. We're right over there. Our booth is right over there. We have engineers who can, if you're building analytics infrastructure on AWS and you have ETL challenges, come talk to us. Happy to talk about your setup. Happy to show you a demo of our software. Number 2, we offer free trials where we pair you up with a solution architect who focuses on making it super low effort for you and to show production value early. Third, stop by our booth and check out our Redshift streaming ingestion demo. So streaming ingestion was launched just 2 hours ago, and we can show you a demo of how we can get analytics-ready data in Redshift in less than 10 seconds. So that's pretty cool. Thanks again, Carlos. This is awesome. Thanks for coming to our talk, and that's it. Cheers.